Okay, so see you again in the next video. So this is still under chapter 22. So this is second learning objective 2, to discuss the process and activities involved in the second steps. Okay, in second, sorry, the third phase. Okay, physical system design. Alright, so in this phase, okay, so during the physical system design phase, so the company will determine how the conceptual AIS design is to be implemented. So from the previous phase just now on the conceptual design, so conceptual design tu just concept saja, framework. Okay, so under physical system design dia nak menzahirkan, okay, to determine how the conceptual AIS can be implemented. So failing to take sufficient time on the conceptual and physical design can cause also problem to the system development. Okay, so it's very important during this design, whether conceptual or physical design. So under physical system design, will involve 6 steps: output design, file and database design, input design, program design, procedure design, and also control design. Alright. Okay, so we go for the first one, output design dulu. Okay, so output design, so the objective here for the output, of course they want to design so that they can determine the nature, the format, the content, the timing of the printed reports, documents and screen display. So it depends pada company. Tadi dia katakan dalam Shopper Smart dia nak ada soft copy ke, dia nak ada hard copy ke. So then they want to determine, okay, the format apa, what are the content, so what are the timing to printed the report, okay, or they want to display on the screen. So those are the things that they need to consider in this output design. And then if you refer table 22.2, those are the output design consideration. Okay, so under this table 22.2, for example, they need to consider in terms of the output use. Okay, the output being used by who will use the output, why, when. So dia kena tahu. Okay, kalau nak keluarkan report, okay, report tu pada siapa, bila, okay, and then what decision will they make based on the report, for example lah. Okay, and then they need consider on the medium used to design the output, whether they want to design just report by to nak distribute by email saja, or maybe combination email dengan paper screen ke, dan whatsoever lah. Dia kena tengok, they consider the medium, the format. Okay, maybe the report need to have the table, need to have the graphic format. Okay, and then they consider the pre-printed form. Okay, for example, whether if the design dia nak perlu adakan turn around documents, okay, so they need to design that pre-printed form. And then location, where should output be sent, access, who should have access to the hard copy and screen output. Ni pun penting juga. Sometimes the output tu is the content is confidential, so dia kena tahu siapa yang sepatutnya perlu dapat output tersebut. Okay, who are the users that have particular access to the report, okay, ataupun output lah. Okay, the details should have the summary. So this is the detail of the output. Perlu ada summary ke, ataupun should headings, organize data, highlight important items. Semua tu the details of the output. Macam mana bentuk output tu nak di present, kena ada heading ke, ataupun kena ada logo ke, for example. Okay, and then maybe each of the report perlu ada summarize kat bawah dia. So all those the details tu they need to, dia kena tahulah, dia kena consider when they want to design the output. And then the timeliness, how often should output be produced. So if let's say they want to produce a report tu perlu produce every week for the management. So dia kena design system tu boleh keluarkan those report every week for the management punya dia lah, for to mix the users needs tadi. Okay, and then After that, output usually fits into one of the following 4 categories. So this is the kind of type of output. Ada categories of output. Okay, they can have schedule report. Okay, so maknanya schedule report ni memang dia dah ada lah regular basis to produce a report. Okay, and then they have pre-specified content and format. Right, and then they have the second category, special purpose analysis report. Okay, this one have no pre-specified content or format and are not prepared on the regular schedule. Dia maknanya ada special purpose lah. So mungkin ada something issues pop up and then they want to evaluate the issues. So they need to produce that analysis report. And then they have triggered exception report. This is have a pre-specified content and format but are prepared only in response to the abnormal condition. Okay, for example, ada certain time ada cost overrun. So dia nak tengok kenapa berlaku cost overrun tu, dia ada perlu keluarkan exception report. So dia ada something event yang triggered them to produce the exception report. Okay, and then the fourth category, demand report. They have a pre-specified content and format but are prepared only on the request. They prepared by request, by demand. Okay, so those are kind of categories of report that they also need consider. So dia kena tahulah all semua kategori tu, and then dia kena match dengan apa yang users nak. Okay, so if let's say dalam contoh Shopper Smart tu mungkin ada sales analysis, sales report yang dia perlu hantar, perlu produce bila dan sebagainya. So dia kena tahulah, dia kena tengok all those specification. Okay, and then normally when they design the output, they need to also get involvement from the users. So the cooperation between the users and designers is very important. Okay, it's necessary so that they can ensure that the output meets the needs of the user. Sebab output ni memang dia ialah dia design system. Okay, and then they want to also meet, of course they nak meet the users needs kan. So every time dia design the output tu, dia kena make sure itu meets all the users needs. Okay, if you still remember, we discuss on the dalam chapter 21, okay, related to prototype. So they also can use the prototype untuk dia sebelum dia masa dia design dia output ni. Alright, so maybe based on the prototype they can show to the users. Okay, so the users see all the design. Contohnya katakan dia design output screen, so ditunjuk dulu kepada users tu, users tengok ini apa yang dia nak tu, dia puas hati. Okay, and then so that they can agree, okay, to that design. So kalau you refer to the textbook, they also mention here sometimes also they need organization require users to sign the document stating that the output form and content are acceptable. Sometimes sampai dia minta user tu sendiri sign, so user sign untuk terima, okay, design tersebut. Sebab sometimes ada berlaku di mana users when they already, dia mungkin tak tengok in detail ke whatsoever, bila dah sampai stage nak implementation, tiba-tiba dia tak setuju dengan output design ni. So dia akan go back to the the previous stage lah. Dia nak kena analyse balik apa users need, nak kena design baru. Okay, so that's important to have a commitment, cooperation from the users, okay, during this design stage. Okay, then the next step is the design on the file and the database. Okay, so actually you already learned this one in the chapter 4 in the AIS 615. Okay, structure yang you belajar masa dalam AIS 615 tu samalah. Itu yang dia akan design. Okay, so in chapter 4 actually is related to relational database. Okay, so during this step, they need consider the medium of storage. They want to store data on hard disk, or maybe they want just store in paper. Okay, and then the processing mode. Okay, so what are the modes they want to have? Mode process manually or real-time processing, batch processing, okay, and then how they want to maintain the storage. Okay, so they need to have the procedure, okay, so that they can maintain the data effectively. And then the size of the file, the size of database, how many records they can store in the database, how large will they be, how fast will the number of records grow. Semua tu dia kena consider. Sebab kalau misal kata the growth of their business to rapidly grow, so dia kena consider lah, dia perlu ada database yang besar untuk menampung. Mungkin kalau kita kata relate to Shopper Smart tadi, dia nak buat sales processing system, so maybe data about their customer, makin lama customer dia makin bertambah. So adakah dia punya database tu dapat menampung pertambahan the growth of the customer punya data. Okay, and then the activity level, what percentage of record will be updated, added, deleted, and so on lah. Alright, okay, so the design, how they design the database tu, okay, you kena refresh balik apa yang you dah belajar dalam chapter 4. Kalau you dah lupa, refer balik chapter 4, buku yang sama. Okay, macam mana dia design nak structure of the data. Alright, then the next one is the input design. Okay, so input design, so this is the include what types of data will be input, okay, and then the optimal input method, apa yang nak digunakan lah. Alright, so kalau you refer table 22.4, those are the consideration that they need to consider during the design. The medium used to input, okay, whether they want to use post of sale, macam contoh dalam Shopper Smart dia nak guna post terminal, okay, dia nak guna RFID, barcode, okay, they want to use EDI, okay, EDI, and so on lah, okay. So dia kena tengok, consider the medium, and then the sources of input, where do data originate, data tu daripada mana, computer, daripada customer, or any remote location, and how does that affect the data entry. So they need to know the sources of the data, okay, and then what format of data, okay, whether they come from the source document or turnaround document, or maybe the input to data tu is come from the source data automation, okay, and what format efficiently capture the data with the least effort and cost. You kena tahulah format mana yang dia nak guna. And then the type of input, what is the nature of the data, okay, whether data tu is just data dia capture daripada source document, ataupun type of data, maybe the voice recorded, maybe, so that's kind of type of data juga as an input to the system, okay. And then the volume of input, how much data are to be entered, so dia kena tahu at one time, pada satu-satu masa dia business dia operation, so the volume berapa dia boleh estimate input for the input, okay. And then personnel, what are the data entry operators abilities, function, expertise, frequency, how often must data be entered, cost, how can cost be minimized without the adversely affecting the efficiency, accuracy, so they need to estimate the cost during the dia kena tahulah juga, okay, input masa dia nak design input tu, what are the cost incurred, how much cost incurred, okay. And then the other consideration is when entered data, also consider on the error detection and correction. So what are errors are possible and how can they be detected and corrected. Contohnya lah, katakan you pergi dekat ATM machine, kan, ATM machine tu you masukkan nombor, you punya particulars, number, password dan sebagainya, ataupun you nak request for nak withdraw money, kan, okay. So kalau you nampak kat situ tu, screen tu, itu adalah salah satu contoh source data automation. So you masukkan number tu, misal kata you tersilap, okay, silap masuk, so how the system can detect the error, and then they communicate to the user, so user knows that they entered error data, and then how the user can correct it. So mungkin ada pop up menu keluar ke bagi tahu you have a error, enter entering wrongly that password for example, and then what you should do lepas tu. So those are the things that they need consider during the input design. Semua tu adalah untuk memudahkan lah, dan untuk give the system more efficient, and also they can make sure data being collected tu adalah data yang accurate. Alright, then other things is this is the principle of good form design. Okay, you can refer table 22.5. This is also the consideration when they want to design the form. Okay, design the form. So sebab form this is part of the source document. So sometimes bila kita nak form ni, is not necessary the physical form. It can be soft copy ataupun screen. Screen pun kita pernah tengok isi form dekat screen kan. So form design, the form is a method also to use to capture data, input data. So they have a certain principle kat situ. So I want you to go through. That's very important. Sebab bila nak design input, semua tu perlu consider lah. For example, katakan saya ambil beberapa contoh. Under general consideration, pre-printed data use as much as possible. Pre-printed data, contohnya lah katakan pre-printed data ni, for example, bila you nak isi form, katakan screen form, you masuk je you punya matrix number, automatically nama keluar. So dia dah maknanya dia dah auto detect your number, and then daripada database you tahu that number is referred to that student, contohlah. Okay, so bila dia buat macam tu, dia boleh mengurangkan human error. So the user tu tak perlu masuk lagi lah, lagi sekali nama ke, ataupun mungkin dah automatic keluar alamat ke, for example. Ataupun maybe here under Shopper Smart punya case ni, sales processing system, bila dia buat sales to the customer masuk dia punya IC number for example, keluar terus dia punya nama, dia punya address, dia punya telephone number. So that general consideration that they can consider. Okay, and then what is the standard size of the form, and then also they need to consider the font use. Okay, bold ke, ada line dan sebagainya, ada part on the introduction part, at the top ada introduction. Okay, they have the form names. Kalau tak, user bila nak isi form dia tak tahu form ni untuk apa. So ada pre-numbered. Okay, and then bila in the main body, maybe dia put, kalau you tengok form biasa dia letak dalam table contohnya, so they can nampak organizedly the data. Alright, and then ada conclusion, maybe some of the font need the signature for example, and then they provide record the final disposition of the report, the signature, approval date. So those are the things that they need to consider. Then those are principle also when they want to have a good design of the form. So bila you nanti next time you nak design form, you kena consider lah semua principle ni, so that your form tu is very effective form. So and then this is the way juga untuk dia control the input. Okay, kalau you still remember, you belajar input control dalam AIS 615, samalah waktu design ni lah, dia nak make sure control tu ada. Control waktu input apa, dia nak make sure data capture accurate. Okay, data capture, timeliness of the data capture tu. Okay, so semua tu dia nak make sure all this data that they capture tu is the quality data. Alright, okay, then after input, okay, so this is the principle untuk screen. Tadi tu more kepada ni lah, kepada physical form. So computer screen are most effective when this procedure are followed. This is untuk procedure for the computer screen. Organize the screen so that the data can be entered quickly, accurately, completely. So dia kena design supaya user tu mudah untuk isi. Okay, so normally the design biasanya from top to bottom, left to right kan. So dia tak adalah nanti you isi form ada sekejap isi part A, okay, and then go to the section C, and then go back to section B. So tu jadi merumitkan user bila nak isi. Okay, and then enter data in the same order as the paper form. So dia boleh guna juga paper form as dia guideline jugalah untuk capture data. So biasanya daripada paper form tu, kalau normally when we design the screen form tu is from the paper form. So maybe bila dah customer tu dah familiar dengan paper form, tiba-tiba nak suruh isi guna screen. So sebab tu dia punya advice kat sini, gunakan format yang sama, display yang sama, so that bila customer nak isi guna screen, so dia dah familiar lah with the flow of the data to input into the form. And then complete the screen from left to right, top to bottom, I already mentioned just now. And then group together. The logically related data can give a grouping together. Contohnya about the customer particulars kat atas, for example, and then related to the sales on the second part. So the grouping tu dia boleh group the data. So mudahlah untuk user bila dia nak isi. And then design the screen as so user can jump from one data entry location to another, or use a single key, or go directly to the screen location. So dia boleh make sure dia punya screen design tu ada navigation button, for example, so mudah untuk the users jump from one data entry location to another data entry location. So biasa kita kalau tengok screen design ada navigation button kan, next, previous, so itu adalah untuk yang perlu consider lah bila you design the screen. Okay, and then easy to correct mistake, clear explicit error message. Okay, so this is that I already mentioned just now. Okay, ada error message pop up, and then how to correct the mistake also mentioned in the on the screen. Okay, and then restrict the amount of data on the screen to avoid clutter, limit the number of menu option on the single screen. So ni untuk bagi screen tu more friendly user lah, boleh nampak mudah untuk user tu masukkan data, dan tak semua data macam tu clutter kan. So bila data yang nak masukkan data terlalu banyak pun, so itu akan membuatkan user susah nak capture, nak masukkan data dalam sistem. Okay, then the next one is program design. So program design, this is one of the most time consuming activity in the SDLC. Okay, so biasanya bila dia design program ni, dia subdivided into small or well defined module. They call it as the structure programming. So program design ni is more kepada programmer lah yang akan buat program ni. Okay, so to improve software quality, organization should develop programming standard. So normally programmer dia akan adalah dia gunakan programming standard. And then although accountants need not be computer programmer, they also should understand how the software is created. So that's why you learn on the system development life cycle ni. Sebab tak semestinya you tahu about the program, nak perlu tahu about the programming, but at least you tahu how they create the system. Okay, so they have 8 step. Okay, in this program design, okay, in developing software. So actually the things dalam 8 step ni kita dah discuss tadi kebanyakannya lah. Okay, for example, step 1, determine users needs. So this is part of the system analysis phase, kita dah discuss dalam chapter 20. And then create the document and develop plan. So this is where they doing the conceptual and they carry out the beginning of the physical design. So kat sini lah under step 2. Alright, then write the program instruction ataupun coding. So that's the step number 3. So this is depending also on the complexity of the program. Okay, so that's as I mentioned earlier tadi, biasanya during the programming coding ni dia akan develop based on the module. Okay, so that they can reduce the complexity. So this is more kepada structured programming. So then number 4, test the program. Okay, so this is the process of debugging. So this is they do test dulu the program. So they can during this stage, this step, dia akan discover and eliminate any program error. So they test dulu the program. Okay, and then they test each of the module of the program. Alright, so For stage 3 and stage 4, this is during the system design and completed during the system implementation. Alright, then the rest of the step, document the program. So they need to document, okay, documentkan program tu. Is also important here sebab document ni dia nak all the programming part perlu documentation. Sebab contohnya lah, katakan sistem tu dia hire the companies have their own programmer, and then the next 2 years programmer tu berhenti. Okay, ada programmer baru masuk. So programmer baru masuk tu dia nak do the maintenance of the current system. They need to refer balik all the documents related to the development of programming of the system. Okay, so documentation explain how the program works. Okay, and then how to correct the errors. Semua tu kena documentkan dia. Alright, and then training. Okay, train the program users. Okay, so train program users. So they have the program documentation. So biasanya program documentation ni lah used for to train the users. Okay, so step number 5 and step number 6 begin in the system design, but most of the work done during the system implementation. So actually we're going to discuss more about this, the next step, the next phase. Okay, and then install the system. Okay, so this is where the company begins to use the system, and then so this is complete during the system implementation and conversion. And the last step, use and modify the system. This is more kepada maintenance, program maintenance. Okay, so they need to revise the program. So pada implementation after 2-3 years, dia akan revise balik. Then this is referred to the program maintenance. So this is part of the operation and maintenance phase, the last phase of the SDLC. Okay, then the next 3 steps is procedure design. So procedure, so this is procedure untuk sistem lah. So everyone who interact with the newly designed AIS need procedure. Okay, so dia kena masukkan dalam prosedur tu. Okay, so normally there will be cover on the input preparation, okay, transaction processing, error detection, correction, semua tu masuk dalam prosedur. So dia adalah, mungkin dia boleh come up with the manual, ataupun they give the training to the users. So semua users aware all the procedure related to the system. Okay, and then who is involved in the writing the procedure ni biasanya adalah developers lah. Okay, developers, users, and also team representing both groups may write this procedure. So dia akan keluarkan manual, procedure manual. Okay, then control design. Okay, so actually this one also you already discussed in AIS 615. So control in terms of input, processing, database. Okay, so control must be built into an AIS to ensure effectiveness, efficiency, and accuracy. So you go through table 22.6. So those are the consideration in terms of control. So I will not go through one by one because that one you already done during 615. So maknanya you kena refresh balik lah apa controls should be considered, about the validity, authorization, security, semua tu you dah belajar dah. Okay, then the last step is of course dia kena keluarkan report lah. So each of the phase memang biasa akan keluarkan report. So at the end of this phase, the team prepare the physical system design report that summarize what was accomplished and serve as a basis for the management decision whether or not to proceed to the implementation process. Okay, so if you refer table 22.8 on the last page ataupun at the end of the topic, okay, they give you the example of the table of contents of for Shopper Smart Report untuk physical system design report ni. Okay, you boleh tengok detail apa yang perlu ada lah semua tu. Okay, so with that I stop this video related to learning objective number 2. So we will continue on the next video on the next learning objective number 3.